Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here on the Humblest Opinion. I'm your host, Tony Bahama, with our co-host, Malika Adegamra. We have two very, very special guests here today on our show. But before we get into that, first things first, we got to get into our disclaimer. Our disclaimer states that the Humblest Opinion is brought to you by AB2C Broadcasting, B Caribbean TV, and Professional Renaissance Protection Services. Our platform, any ideas, views, thoughts, disseminations are brought to you via an at-will clause. If you listen, you are 100% liable, and we are non-liable. Anybody and anything said on this platform, you do have the right to choose to listen. If you decide to listen, you are responsible. If you do not like what you hear, you have the right to click off and or leave. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have two very, very special guests, Brother Andre and Mrs. Nefertiti. Please introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit, as much as you feel comfortable, about yourselves, and then as we roll into the show, we'll continue with more.
So, is it lady before gent?
Good night. Good night. Good night, everyone. I'm Queen Nefertiti. I'm from Jamaica.
Okay.
What do you guys want to know?
Okay. And,
Okay, Brother Andre. So, as was said earlier by our open speaker, so I am Andre. Growing up all my life in Jamaica, from the rural part, traverse my island, because I can be considered myself an island boy, where I do classify myself as a universal being. Seeing?
right.
All right. Awesome. Yeah.
On that note, as we talk about the island, but ladies first, tell us a little bit about your experience, I guess, as far as seeing or dealing with the government, and anything that's the monarchy or the powers that be in your country of Jamaica. Mrs. Nefertiti, then Mr. Andre.
Okay, Brother Andre, are you there? I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, you can give the answer to the question. Some of our listeners with information, country or island, as in other island and other countries in the world were once colonized by European, nowadays superpowers. Hence, many of its offshoots are a remnant still remain in our societies today, hindering the progress of the minority, which we will still consider the masses. These hindrances can be structural, societal, and it's also governmental. Because as I said, these are remnants of colonial. And most of the things in place now, and we doing each other these things, and the government doing us these things, are actually spillovers from what was once the order of the day. So as I would have observed, the order continues. Maybe more subtly or covertly, but it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, understood, because unfortunately, that is what it is for for our melanated people almost everywhere in the world. We started where they were the people who were doing all of the evil against us, and then we've been indoctrinated to the point where we're doing it to ourselves. The leaders that represent are supposed to represent us are puppets for the people who have always had us under oppression. And instead of us rising up against these individuals, we turn on ourselves.
Yeah. We call it the woolly lid syndrome,
Yep, exactly that.
And I guess in Northern America, especially USA, we call it, some persons refer to it as the Uncle Toms and the Auntie Toms, no? So we continue to oppress ourselves in the name of independence while still holding true. So I think what independence was actually a truce between the leaders of today and the colonial superpowers we once had and are still today.
And that's basically all that it ended up being, and we did not realize that all they did was broker a deal to change the face of the leadership, but they're still representing these people and keeping us in oppression and bondage.
But for the longest time, ever since, as we said, as it relates to government today, we are seeing they move from chattel slavery to political slavery. And the island in and of itself is not single to these experiences. As from my observation, I would have observed that once you have succeeded in getting independence from colonial masters, it's either you're going to sign up as being a son, a daughter, or for someone, for example, the UK and the USA, they are like sisters and brothers, but some affiliation will remain. And it just goes to show that the more things change, the more it remains the same.
Yes, the exact same. Yes, you are correct.
That's 100% correct. The funny thing is, in meeting some of our preeminent speakers, I've traveled the world and had an opportunity to kind of carry the word of what I know as the truth. That the black man is king. And our melanated people are king and queens, respectively. They've all, for the majority, kind of had the same experience in observing our people in the same similar situation. Like you said, coming from one form of slavery to the next. So it's a melancholy.
Very sad indeed.
It's unfortunate that our Ma'afa is still going on after all this time, and a lot of people don't even understand and know that the Ma'afa is still going on. But as it relates to, I guess, please expound, Brother Andre, I guess, on our next question. How the history of the UK and how the history pretty much needs to be reformatted or presented differently.
So I would say, emanating from independence, as an independent country, you should. I have known my life that men are not given rights. We are born with indelible rights, all of us.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So now, given the fact that our rights were given to us presumably, then it just goes to show that everything continues. The blueprint, the sign and the seal of approval is still on most things. So we can see, even though we have a House of Parliament, it is headed by a representative of the Queen in the form of the Governor General.
Right.
And for example, the public may see a state of emergency being called by the Prime Minister. However, the majority of the mass are not privy to the information that the call of that state of emergency has to be sanctioned by the Governor General,
right,
the Queen representative.
Right.
So we see how the stronghold is still holding us in our grounds, and it just continues across our strata of life, productivity, in our professional development, our so-called development. And it's just like a breathing, our conveyor belt to feed the system to continue breathing and us suffocating.
Wow. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. So, another example of colonial superpower still strangling us. So, coronavirus broke out last year, and for me, a regular-minded person could have seen that this virus would have been an importation of some sort for you, a country to be affected by, because it did not emanate from all the countries, but one specific area of the world.
Right.
And we're looking at diplomacy and bureaucracy working now. So anyhow, we're watching, and from my layman perspective, I would have wanted my independent government to act much differently than it had acted on the day it acted last year. So
basically, you wanted them to act independently.
Yeah. So what's the independent action I would have been looking forward to? So one, so I would want our borders to be closed immediately, because as I said before, it would have to be an imported case for our country to be affected. But I see where, from my observation, the collusion of world governments to keep oppressing the masses of whatever ethnicity. Okay, so I see where now, as I said, if I'm seeing the spread of possible dangerous disaster spill in my direction, I would put in preventative measures than reactive measures to the threat.
Of course.
So I see where, all right, they said we had a first case, and they said they're going to ban flights coming in from Iran. And they're also going to ban flights coming in from Greece.
Mm-hmm.
I see where my immediate colonials are superpowers in the USA and the United Kingdom. They were still afforded the opportunity to fly in, even though their cases were skyrocketing out of control. And even though I've never heard of a plane load of Iranians flying into the country, neither have I heard of a plane load of Greeks flying into the country. That's what I'm saying. Why the ban on those countries that is not so much impactful as we spreading or contracting the epidemic or the disease as a country. So then I'm seeing where the last person, when they were to institute a ban now against the United Kingdom, like they would say, all right, we'll ban it, we'll effect a ban today. Then some meetings kept when the ban was supposed to be effected, and said, okay, we're going to give them 48 more hours. And then all this time, we were allowing flights to become inbound, and then we see where our cases started rising, and then after some time after, they finally said, all right, we can close travel between us and the UK, us and the United States of America. So this is an example of how the colonial grip is still at our throat, I said earlier, suffocating us. Because I would have said, I don't see the reason banning planes or flights from Greece and Iran, where they don't frequent our island, and these places nearby, especially United Kingdom or England, their cases were skyrocketing, and yes, we were allowing them to fly in. So I guess maybe it was, you cannot upset your ruler. You understand?
Yeah, definitely understood. I understand clearly. You know, obviously you elect leaders for the benefit of not other people's country, your country.
That is so correct.
So, I mean, in a selfish way, you should be. That's not originating in our area. That's not our issue. So, why then wasn't it done? And I understand your sentiment that it should have been done, because this is not our problem. This is not, of course, we sympathize, we empathize, but to leave ourselves unprotected to help or to allow them to come in with potential sickness is definitely not the way someone who has or rules in your best interest should respond. Brother Yamba.
Which is right. So you have an administration, right? So it is in our best interest to protect our interests and first and foremost our people.
Correct.
If a catastrophe hits any of those other countries, they are considered first world countries, right? And we are considered Jamaica developing our third world country, a world apart, right? So they deemed first world would be better able and equipped to respond to a disaster spreading in their territories. We now, on the other hand, are not so equipped, so we should be even more
Precautious.
You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Definitely.
And just know, say, how independent we can stand and say this is the order of the day, and until the air clears, this is what is going to be mainstay. But given the history, then we can find situations of this nature arising.
Yeah, we understood. Well, on that same note, I mean, in your country, what is the as it relates to future generations and minorities, what would you consider or feel would be a solution, to like what would set your country, Jamaica, in the right trajectory?
So the future for me, as I see it, I look at the world from the little spot I'm in, that in the Caribbean Sea, Jamaica. But as I would have said earlier, I'm an island boy, and I'm also a universal being.
Mm-hmm.
So as it relates to Jamaica, future for our children, it's bleak. But the world over, I'm seeing where the future of those other countries' children are going to be bleak as well, because of our present day policies eroding a future that should be presented on a platter for our future children. Example, the debt crisis, and it's not facing our country. So now our future children who are not privy to the benefits of the debt we are putting them into, we'll have to repay those debts to the countries or the groups or companies we would have borrowed those money from. You get me?
Yeah. They wasn't here.
So now we see where it is always considered we have to grow ourselves out of production, but here comes our superpower powers at play again, and especially our colonial masters, because you are not allowed to produce. So I'm seeing in the case of bauxite being exported from Jamaica. When it was in the 80s, our number one export was bauxite, and that is like nearly 40 years now, right? And I've yet to see an aluminum factory being established in our country at any point, at any of the counties.
Wow.
And we export, we're one of the largest exporters of bauxite to the world also. You get me? But yet we supply the raw material, as in the goods, and we are also considered good because we are considered resources, human resources. The government of the day think of itself as the users or the exploiters of these human resources, and whoever deals with it can exploit them in the name of law. As one leader once said, the law is not a shackle, it is a tool for social engineering. So with our local laws and international laws combined, it cripples the future of our youth, the future of our country to successfully develop, grow itself out of debt, and become one of the first world nations. And I'm not in an agreement to say one is first world and the other is first world. I'm of an equal position where I want to see all worlds equal.
Right.
I can agree with you. It looks like it's clearly an agenda. Queen Nefertiti, you've been quite quiet. What are your thoughts on this question?
To me, there is no role model for our children. That's another major problem right now that we're facing. Social media to me is taking over, and it's leading our youth astray. The bleaching, the music, the alcohol, the drugs, all. Nowadays, every woman wants to be thick. The eating unhealthy and the drugs to become accepted by society. It's a lot of things going on in Jamaica right now that is leading our youth history, and there's no role models to say stand up or set a better example. Everyone, the older people nowadays, they are trying to be like the younger generation. So who is there to lead or guide them?
Yeah, and I mean, and this also goes back to the thing of brain training, because our most brilliant minds are extradited or exported to where, once again, our once colonial masters are supposedly still colonial masters. So if I, for example, I'm from the rural part and I should attend a university in the urban area, get attain a degree, then who's comes recruiting? The United Kingdom. So, extract one of the most brilliant of minds within a society that needs the most brilliant of minds to keep moving it forward. And then the bling, the light, and the light, because we see or tell ourselves that, okay, we are going to achieve more being extracted from here to the UK or North America, okay? But now that leaves us now with our country facing dilemmas, as Nefertiti would have made mention the lack of role models. You understand? Because now, when I go to school and the teacher said, "Where are you from?" And he said, I'm from Hagley Park Road. And he said, I used to teach a bright boy from Hagley Park Road. His name is Paul. But he no longer lives there. Where Paul now lives? He lives in the UK. So now, the mentor that should have remained in that community to continue mentoring the community out of the state has now been extracted from that community to build as a second class, another word continuing being first class. Understand?
Yeah. It's definitely, and that's pretty much what the principle of slavery was. The economic enslavement was more so the worst part of slavery. It's not been only the economic aspects of it. The worst part of slavery has been the people. If you want to look at today, the music, the culture. Yeah, it was work. Yeah, it was, enslavement for personal gain and so on and so forth. But the main thing was the people. And now that process is gotten to the point where people, like you said, they're not being dragged anymore per se to go somewhere. They're going for their best interest and their best opportunity, in quotation marks, perceivably. So they're leaving because where they're from.
They're civic duty by the government of the day.
Right, and it's being facilitated by these other places that are in better economic states, which kind of put these things on equal. I agree with you when you said also first world and third world country. I don't see how the people that produce and have all the natural resources are the second world or the third world country, and the ones who don't have it are the first world country. That don't make sense.
Listen, the entire thing is propaganda. It's always been propaganda from the beginning to now. From the started colonizing, it's all about propaganda. They put you on a map, and they have if you read the maps, if you actually read a proper map, you would realize that Africa is the biggest country in the world. Okay, these other countries are not nearly as large as they map them out to be. So you start from there, and they show you, hey, we are better than you. They tell you this when they know that they're not, but they tell you this. Okay, so it's the propaganda that's been able to run things with the world, because they say things and then they put it on the news, which they control, and make it seem as if it's true.
Yeah. Someone is born into ignorance, grown by parents who are ignorant, in a society that is ignorant. What does he become?
Perfect.
Ignorant.
Perfect segue into our next question. But Andre, what's your thoughts on the passing of the recent Duke of England?
No, rephrase, please.
The gentleman that was married to the person that's claiming to be queen.
Okay, the Duke.
I don't know who Dookie is. I never pledge.
Mr. Eddie himself.
Whoever he is, you know.
So,
he just passed away.
All right. So my thing was following, because I'm a person like this. I follow what's happening globally. And then I try to sync them into what's happening also locally.
Right.
So I see the Duke passing when and just maybe this is a laughable moment or opportunity. But for me, I even said when I'm laughing, it's a serious joke.
Yeah, it is.
Like a praise in Jamaica. Oh man, I want a serious joke with me, you know. So that's like a praise in Jamaica. Understand?
Yeah.
So what's this now? For me, I see his passing culminating with an event that is widespread across the world today within it. Like for example now, the coronavirus. So when the coronavirus first broke last year, it was said that their place of residence was hit by the disease.
Yeah.
And, some denials were said and some migration happened and some person went from one door to another door. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they said, all right, that person who is maybe younger or fitter, he has it, and you know that man is always from condition. But now I'm seeing now, they moved from the pandemic last year to the vaccine this year. And I would have seen where now him passing off when the program is ramped up for you to be vaccinated, not tested, nor scared of getting the disease, but be vaccinated. So when I see him passing now, I would have juxtaposed his passing to the passing of the Christ, the biblical Christ, as in the King James Version. So, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. So I'm here with my friends smiling now, and I'm like saying, so my notion is that the whole thing, the pandemic being a pandemic, and as I've always opined that it is a plan. So I say, well, if them can surrender, because we know about sacrifices, I said them can sacrifice one of the most notorious ones, you know, that means that the rest of the world is have not to be sacrificed now, you know, so yo.
Exactly, agreed.
That's interesting that you say that, because he said that if he ever died, you know, when he died, he wanted to come back as a deadly pandemic or deadly disease.
Now, just to finish that, its passing would have also been, it's affixed to the same time as the Easter period. The symbolism, I understand you're following my thought process on it.
Explain a little bit more. Explain a little bit more for our viewers.
So it was said that Christ died and raised 3 days after, you know what I mean? And this period was observed from Lent to what, Palm Sunday?
Yeah.
40 days. So I'm just saying, what, Good Friday died on Good Friday, no one raised on Easter Monday. So I'm just saying now so Christmas is celebrating the life of the biblical King James Christ, and the Easter is now acknowledged as the death. So I'm saying now that it symbolizes something, because for me the Bible is a code for me and a book for a spiritual direction, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's a code to be decoded, then you can better understand the world as is. That's for me, you know what I mean? So that's why I was tying his death and the time in the crisis we are faced with across the world now, and saying, well, send him off in this period now, and make sure everybody knows that you are nothing to be sent off, you know, because so now we just send off only begotten son once more, you know. So when we come back, I don't know what's going to happen. You get me? I have to suffer some more little children to come on today.
Right. Let me ask you, as it relates to, I guess, obviously you answered a couple of our questions. You said it all in one. But as it relates to Jamaica, specifically, you know, in a like, what are the problems that are affecting the country directly that you could say? You could say this. Give it like maybe 4 or 5 of them, and then, you know, right on after you give us a list of them, you know, what all solutions you feel might be the biggest thing affecting Jamaica right now is?
So the problem our country is faced with, so it's a cultural problem issues, big cultural issues, because we are seeing under our nose our culture eroding and being replaced with the North American influence. You know what I mean? So, and we see international constraints because they are signature to certain treaties and you are affiliated to certain blocks, then you have to play according to the rules. And all of these, for example, a person will say crime and violence, but all of these are the things that I'm identifying now would have contributed to the rise in crime and violence, which is a bigger issue than the issue of crime and violence, because if you address these issues, then crime and violence would be a null and void issue because...
Right. They wouldn't do that anymore because it doesn't make any sense.
They
wouldn't do that anymore because it don't make any sense. They would.
Yeah.
Or there would be no need. There would be no need.
Yeah. So as I said, as it affects our growth as a populace, as a nation, we just need to be in the name or the denotative meaning of the word independent to be independent. But I know that our leaders' hands are cuffed. I understand, and their leverage to move is in accordance to. You know what I mean? Those persons holding the keys to the cuff. So to escape out of the paradigm we are faced with, it is a hard task as I see it. So let me give you a scenario before I even go on inch further. So before coronavirus, the finance minister would have said that, declared that we were free from IMF. So that means we would have borrowed some money, we were on an IMF program, and we would have repaid all the debts and abide by the protocols, and now we are free from them. So it was a moment for a celebration. Okay?
Yeah.
So, you know that the parliament and it erupted, and I guess the euphoria replicated across the country. Now, weeks later, here comes what I alluded to earlier as the pandemic, and I'm listening close because my views are always watching what is going on around the world and as it trickles down into my direct world.
Right.
So, my Al Jazeera feed and I have some other feed and I go and feed into world thing and say, all right.
Right.
Corona will take over this place, All right, so them have parliament gather and them say, all right, we have a cushion, we have a net reserve that has never been so more solid than it is now. Actually, and we have like 52 weeks. Some are not going to quote a number, but we have adequate amount of supplies just in case areas, and we don't need the IMF at the moment. However, now, I'm listening my international scope and things now, and then like, I'm hearing IMF talking internationally, not directly to my country, but internationally. And in the statement, you can track it down sometime to, it stated that 200 million Latin American and Caribbean lives will be disrupted as a result of the pandemic. So we're not talking about the disease in and of itself, but after the disease or during the disease, the rampage of the disease, 200 million Latin American and Caribbean citizens' lives will be disrupted. So now we come back to our local news now. I'm here, the finance minister say, we still don't need to go to the IMF because guess what? We have a healthy reserve, net reserve, and we can get this and hearing what's happening outside the world and this, we can't get through it. But then by me hear that internationally, hear man compare the arguments, then the following week now me hear him retracting now. You know what I mean? Skidding back and telling him, say, all right, here we go, Africa enter now and standby arrangement with them, just in case, you know what I mean? Because given the financial horizon, the economic horizon is looking bleak, and then guess what? We don't want to get too bleak and not before we have to go to them. And then when time we have to them, it's actually late because some persons are already in the place we should have been. So, for me, it is a hard task to get me to elude ourselves from the grip of these, of the oligarchs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we as citizens, I always see us going back to day one. So I always think collective security. We have to collectively secure in each other. So I have also this notion of whilst my goal is to protect my goal while seeking my goal. Understand? So I have to leave my island to say I'm better, and then like see my island fall in disrepair. You get me? So now, if each of us can just know, say, we are all hands together. We know now, for me, the government, in the end of the day, so just like other countries, we are in a two-party communist state. You know what I mean? Where neither of them will make any difference to our lives because they are acting accordingly, and they are in one house, and we are always told that the house divided by itself will fall. They will never divide amongst themselves. They will keep us in the division and will continue falling. So until we can realize that we are actually perpetuating what they once perpetuated on us, then there's no way out. So I said, if the culture is being eroded, the social fabric is worn, then what we have left now, we'll be left exposed to the elements. Then we just with our way. I understand.
Yeah, definitely.
So the biggest problem I would attest to affecting my country is just international policies and our mix in it. Understand?
Yeah.
All right, so Queen Nefertiti, what would you say are the problems that are existing in Jamaica, and what do you think could be done to resolve these things?
I guess we'll
have to get back to her.
come back.
All right, so let's
one.
move on to the next question.
Just another example. So there was this little news about a shipwright agreement with Jamaica and the USA, where some fishermen were captured and held in inhumane conditions aboard several ships owned and operated by the American government, the Navy, or the Army, or whatever leg of the Army that is. So now, these example of these deals signed by our country with other major players in the world, as I'm saying, impacting the lives of our ordinary Jamaicans, because here is a group of fisher folks who their pressly developed problems. They were spotted by American Naval Patrol in our Caribbean waters. Took them out of the water, have them in custody for like about 6 months or more until their families deemed that they would have not returned. Our government did not see or deem it fit to now investigate and secure their re-entry to the country and just left it to the American government to do what it deems fit. So now, what we would say legal aid would have got wind of the case, and it was the action of that legal aid who actually got the men freed. And when the men were freed, now then the Jamaican government now came out in some little denial and some cover up and something that the entire agreement was exposed. The Information Act provided some of us with privilege to see the information as the agreement entails and say, but this not really right. How do I, in the name of, because we know that these guys come with some big names and then they say to harm us, right? In the name of national security. I understand. I know that Jamaica, American foreign affairs or foreign policies are always causing hindrance by the persons and the populace in which the countries they are operating. So as I said, outside forces detected by me the biggest problem faced by my country today. And until we can tackle those and until we are allowed to freely conduct our affairs, until our leaders break from the truth and just start acknowledging themselves as our servants and not our masters, until the people see them as servants and not as masters, then the situation prevails.
So you think? I could see that. Do you think that it just so happens to coincide that this pandemic that affects Jamaica and the Caribbean most places so directly. It just so happens that Jamaica signed off and has pushed legislation towards the world courts for slavery. You think there's any coincidence that these things just so happen at the same time, or no? It's no connection. You think?
So I've always been mindful that things operate overtly and they do operate covertly. But if you pay attention to the intricacies of its development or constituent, then you will then realize that whoa, no? And then you will connect these dots together and see that there's actually a trail to be followed, and the trail will lead us here or there. So I've never discarded anything as just mere coincidence or speculation. Understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially as it has to do with government bilateral agreement or of any form, or even council. For example, a G8 meeting, a G20, a Davos economic forum, whatever they are sitting and discussing the populace of the world. Yeah. There's no coincidence for me.
There's no coincidence.
Yeah, there's definitely no coincidence. Queen. There's definitely no coincidences. Anything that's going on, because things have always been planned, and they continue to be planned, and that's the thing that people do not understand. And I find it coincidental that you speak of connecting the dots, because I'm always speaking about connecting the dots. The fact of the matter is we don't know how to connect the dots. They have mastered the propaganda to the point where something happens a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, people have already forgotten about that. So they've been warned about what's happening now, but they forgot about that warning. All right, so
bombardment of information.
Yes. So that is the reason why you're able to speak about a conspiracy theory or create that, because that's a creation, simply because of the fact that by the time as that information, when that information came out, all they did was change their time span. So let's just say they planned to do it this year, and that leaked out. They don't do it this year. They wait a couple of years, and then they knew exactly what they were going to do, but people already forgot about that.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, well, with all this information, and as we wrap up, we get near our time, what should be the outlook, firstly, of the people there in your country for something positive, or to make something positive happen, and then finally, would you say as a global citizen, what should be their outlook, you feel?
So in one sentence.
No, not one sentence. Take your time.
No, I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it to you in one sentence. Okay, are you ready for this?
I'm listening.
We're waiting.
All population top of their government.
And I agree with that 1,000%. Queen Nefertiti, what are your thoughts on what could be done to better their country? All right, we're having a problem with the connection with Queen Nefertiti. But I definitely feel that what you said just now was profound, and it needs to be done. Queen Nefertiti, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, can you give us your thoughts on what can be done to better your country?
So, in my humblest opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, we have to take key note. Power. Right?
Yes.
Whenever
agreed.
you choose to give someone power, we have to be careful of the decision we are making. The fascinating thing about power is that whenever you deem or see yourself become, or you realize yourself being powerful, guess what? Do you no want to feel powerless? It's a rhetorical question still. You don't.
Yeah, no. That's why we didn't answer. But understood clearly.
So now, when we go out and we say we're using or giving rights to cast a ballot to give these, whichever, as we say, we are living in a two-party communist state, and for some other democratic countries, there are people are inside. It's for me the same, two-party communists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whenever we give these individuals the power to rule over us, they are not going to want to rule in our best interest, but to rule in the best interest of the oligarchs, because in the interest of the oligarchs, they feel or see it, that they will remain powerful. So now,
of course,
these buildings and these shrines, for example, a House of Parliament in Jamaica or a White House, is a symbol of what? Power. And anyone who sees himself or herself reaching this place, this building, this institution, see themselves as being powerful. You know what I mean? And then when you attain that power now, and you see the populace realizing you are not using that power for the populace's best interest, but for the interest of your own son. You don't want to have one man. We have a party being in power for 18 years, and that party still wanted to be in power for another 18 years. To do what?
Well, of course. I mean, why would you want to let that power go?
Yeah, you get me? So now it becomes addictive. I mean, and you are now an addict to power. So now, when you become an addict to power, all you are going to ensure that you are always powerful. You always have that power to use. And you don't want to ensure that anyone else has the power to do as you do, and that will render your power useless.
Agreed. 100%. See, what we must understand is this: the reason why people do not want to make changes to these things, because notice now, you would have a lot of activists, people who speak out against these things, and then when they get noticed, then they are chosen to lead so that there could be a difference. But once they get into the system, they realize the system can be changed. Yes, of course it can, but one, is going to take a lot of work, and two, they would lose the amount of power that they would have when it does change. Okay, because people have already established certain things, so the combination of power around the world is something that they're not going to be able to attain by themselves. Okay, so they decide to say, okay, I don't feel like I could beat them, so what I will do is join them so that I could be rich, my children could be rich, my children could be rich. To hell with the rest of those people. And that's basically the cycle that has been taking place around the world for centuries.
Yeah, and in our race, we call them the talented tenth, because now they amass all this wealth and they want, starts to flaunt and exalt what I just alluded to, being powerful. So you want to be known as the richest black woman or the richest black man, doing what?
Yes.
So now, and you are feeling a sense of that now, you are included in the 1%. But I tell you this, you wanting to join them to become powerful, or as I've seen in my country, you wanting to join government to effect a positive change. It is hardly oftentimes impossible to get done. So there was this young member of parliament, and he had a bright vision. He went in, and in his constituency, instead of what we call dipping in the pork barrel, as in Jamaica it says, the fight for scarce benefits and spoils. So instead of sharing up the pork barrel, he actually shut it, discarded it. You know what I mean? He chose to implement in his constituency educational program where students are afforded even classes, extra tuitions, so they can become more educated. Now, the older folks in the community rebelled against his stance. You know what I mean? Because they are used to getting things out of the pork barrel. They complained to the administration to which he was affiliated, still affiliated, but they were in government on the day. Instead of the administration now using its power to now make the community aware that, hey, he's actually doing a good thing in the community. And we should actually applaud him. You know what they did with him?
No, what did they do?
They ousted him from from the position of being the member of parliament for that constituency, and became a backbencher. You understand? Because he lost that constituency based on him trying to get good, and his administrator who formed government on the day never backed him. You know, say, all right, you're actually doing good as a young man, and this is the way forward the country should be going, and each constituency should be representing what you are doing over there.
Yeah.
Instead of that, they continued with the order of the day and say, yo, all right.
Similar to the life of Gaddafi.
Yeah, man.
Similar.
Speaking of that.
Similar to the life of Gaddafi,
Yeah.
Speaking of that, you said you talked about the richest man and the richest people. Speaking on the richest man, or the former richest man, Bill Gates, what are your thoughts on his whole situation?
Oh my. So capitalism, it's a capitalism. So all right, boom. So we all should know, recognize that we are living not in Bahamas, not in Jamaica, not in North America, but actually in the global village, singular. Right?
Right.
And
yes.
we are seeing capitalists, the capitalist and capitalism maybe at its highest now, and it can get higher. You know, there's always room for improvement. Example one, AI, and surveillance capitalism. Because Professor Sashura Zuboff, making us aware of how these persons are actually using what we did not give them voluntarily to be actually used against us for their continued benefit.
Right.
I mean, now, Mr. Former Richest Man makes me try, not to admire what persons cast out as role models, because growing up, there are many students, even I remember reminiscing the other day, you're on school challenge visit. This is a local program involving schools testing their wits in the different subject areas and current affairs. So a question would pop, who is the richest man in the world? And they squeeze about the peep, and they said Bill Gates, and they said correct, and you get 2 points, and you may eventually win the match also. Alright? So now, that will make many persons want to be Bill Gates. Right?
Right.
Role model. Gone. Now, fast forward, and we are here 30 years later and seeing how absolute power corrupts.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, this man is presented via propaganda as being an inventor or a genius or something of the sort, when actually he was only capitalizing. Well, maybe he's genius in capitalizing. He's a genius at capitalizing, but not a genius at developing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, we see where farmlands are being bought up, gobbled up by him, not only in America, but as far as India.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then him linking with other oligarchs of his type and nature. The man buying out the seeds and all of plant life. So the collusion, as you can see, the ring and how it is forming now. So from him developing what them say Microsoft to now in the act of developing what? Responsible for Medicare, him performing the role of WHO, WHO. So I'm like saying, what in it? Are you the hero or the villain? Or as my granny would say, 6 or 1/2 dozen at the other, two-faced guy.
Yep.
So he projecting himself as such would say, yo, just reverse that picture, flip it and see who is actually patenting a vaccine why can't I would have alluded to further. So you are the world's biggest producer of bauxite. You still cannot produce aluminum. And aluminum is almost an active ingredient in food, pharmaceutical, industrial, almost everything aluminum is involved with. But we supply the raw material, not the finished product. Now, you want to patent not only vaccine, this man has also patented, because first time I hear about a patent being placed on a disease. So why would a man want to patent a strain of disease?
Right.
Sure.
You know,
never left my mind. Why would I want to own a strain of disease? So now, when I first met up with Ebola and we get the information, and say, okay, Ebola was last seen in the world 40 years ago. So I say, wow, so where did it suddenly spring from? So then let me say, yeah, with spring and some strains are developing new strains, and Mr. persons are patenting the strain. And I say, oh, so maybe 40 years later again, we can see it resurging because someone will have it. It may be used because we know that war is fought on many levels, and it's not just embodiment with gunshot blaring and bombs dropping. So we know we have economical warfare, we know we have biological warfare, and we know we have psychological warfare, and all these wars are being fought for me in front of our eyes every day. You get me? So now, I would have seen prior documentaries, speeches given by him, and him like prophesizing what is actually unfolding today.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I was seeing like all those Ebola check he was on in Africa was actually to check forward into the future today, as he would have been saying. We need an assimilation because we need persons ready. We need for this event and for this event.
Yeah, ready for what they plan to do.
Ready for what they plan to do. And we all also know about problem response solution. Now I mean, we create this problem, make the
exactly you respond exactly
response, and then what they would want to do normally, we just readily accept as the way forward. So now this makes me even more cautious about the order of the day as it relates globally, and as it trickles down into my neck of the woods in the global village. So what happens elsewhere, it also affects me here, and I know that one day whatever is there will reach me here, because we are in the global village, the global sphere. So we see this man spearheading something, the total opposite of what the propaganda machinery of the world, all these great media houses are projecting as the information relating to the topic up for discussion are almost on everyone's.
All of the media houses that are controlled by one person. Continue.
The 1%. So now even in our country as it relates now, so you have the media house, so you have this group, the RGR communication groups. So this is a parent company for like I would say 60% of all media in Jamaica, and it's controlled by what? The chairman is one man. So whatever is going to go appear in the print media, television, or what is aired on radio, is that cable is going to be controlled by what? One person.
Yes.
So now, if it's not deemed fit for this to be aired, what will happen to it?
It will be shelved. It would not go.
Yes, so now you have to go in line. When you're online, you have to be in line with the order of the day. So this is what is being propagated. Now you must make it even more mainstay in the minds, because we know that the societies are dumbed down by school and by media. You get me?
Yep. Miseducation all around.
Yeah. So now we have this notion also that we live on a miseducated planet. You know what I mean? So my thought has long evolved around, like, for example, I said I want equality for all. You know what I mean? And I said black man is king, and I would agree we are all kings. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying if we collectively secure each other's interest, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then we can all coexist harmoniously in what is stated as the global village. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there are forces, so there's that don't see my notion of us securing each other collectively. Each one as their best.
Right.
So the
Right.
opposite
No, it is not. No.
Yeah. So the opposite is propagated on the day, and then we have these figureheads or these celebrities who will configure what is to be configured, and then the trigger is triggered, and then now we are left disfigured.
Yeah, for real.
Serious thing.
Yeah. You know, Brother Andre, Brother Andre, we run out of time, or we're out of time now. I think that we need to get you back on the show. Again, you got a wealth of knowledge and information, so we need to try to get you back on as soon as humanly possible. As soon as humanly possible, we need to get you back on. So, Brother Bahama,
finally, in closing, I mean, first of all, we want to be grateful and thankful for all the individuals coming and joining our platform. We want everybody that's listening to this and hearing our platform, definitely like, share, subscribe, pass the word around. We have some really qualified and good guests on our show consistently from different demographics and different places. And they're basically giving you what they see on the ground, and that's valuable. So, that's definitely important to kind of get a collective idea or collective set of information as far as, what we all can do together or work together, how we can work together, to overcome some of the things that have been put in front of us.
We are outnumbered by the minority, and the majority is outnumbered by the minority.
Right.
Because
and
the Jews have become in check, and
all of that is propaganda as well. Because at the end of the day, all of it is propaganda.
Until we apply ourselves to know that it is not, because guess what? If we just flip the coin, then guess what? They can't even manage us. You know what I mean? But
that's what I'm saying. But that's why I say it's all propaganda. It's all propaganda, because they have us believing that we are, because they're calling you minority when you're actually the majority.
Yeah.
But because we're disjointed, we don't know the truth. A lot of people, yeah.
In my humblest opinion, it is always a pleasure to serve. Sharing information, sharing thoughts, sharing.
Listen, man, it was great. It was great having you on.
Yeah,
Yeah, man, it was great having you on tonight, man. Like I said, we gotta make some arrangements to make this happen again.
Definitely so. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here on the Humblest Opinion. Myself, Tony Bahama, Malika Legama, and Brother Andre joining us here. Yeah. Until next time, thank you for joining us.
Peace out.
See, there we go. I know destination, you never been there before. Oh, no reservation, come on, let's go and explore.